This is the American Indians, Indigenous Peoples Truths. Justice for all, the most dangerous show on media anywhere. OCO, Leslie, how are you?
Halito, Chimichukma.
Leslie,
How are you?
I'm doing okay. 4 weeks out of heart surgery and still standing.
Yep, you still are. No, hey, nothing's gonna get you down.
Yeah, I know. Listen, would you do us a great favor and give us the land acknowledgement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So let's pause for a moment to acknowledge the traditional stewards of the lands that we reside on. Where I live right now, this is the land of the Lenape, and especially their ancestors, descendants, and all indigenous people who live now and have ever lived on this place and land that we call Turtle Island and beyond. But more than acknowledgement, let's honor and support our existing indigenous communities by helping them continue their land-based practices, traditions, and way of life, by dispelling false narratives about their history and people while promoting their authentic truths, helping them heal from past wrongs and offenses, and assisting them in protecting and restoring back to health the land, nature, and water, which brings life.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
So, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we have a really good subject this evening, and we have some really great guests. Some people you've seen before, always great guests. But before we even bring in our subject and bring in our guests, this is a Filipino American Heritage Month. So it falls right in between Hispanic Heritage Month and LGBTQ Awareness Month. So we want to wish all of our Filipino American and Filipino people with a Filipino ancestry a very happy and healthy month, with a lot of education, awareness, and festivities.
And especially my longtime friend, Lou Diamond Phillips. He's from the Philippines, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people think he's Mexican.
No. He's Filipino.
That's
okay.
Right.
So, shall we get started?
Yes, let's get started. So the topic tonight, if you looked at our presentation this evening for the broadcast, we're talking about to unlawfully protect and serve. And to protect and serve is the byline of our police force. However, what happens when they abuse that? When they unlawfully use their privilege to protect and serve and unlawfully arrest, harass, and incarcerate people because of that authority. And tonight we have a story that we wanted to talk about specifically, and we have some guests that can give some input on this subject matter. So let's bring everybody in.
Okay.
All right. Can we have everybody introduce themselves, please? Let's start with Raymond.
Okay, come on.
Brother Two Hawks.
Pog, that is to say, peace be unto you, friends. Raymond Two Hawks Watson, Mashi Pog Nahigantit, Narragansett people from based here in Rhode Island. Always a pleasure to be here with Jay and Les, and looking forward to a productive and positive discussion this evening.
Okay. Erica, introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Tape Jutawe Chakrewi, Erica, Crazy Hawk, Hunkwati Nation, Crow Creek Sioux Tribe, Fort Thompson, South Dakota, veteran, and just here as part of this broadcasting with the Indigenous Earth Protectors, Twin Cities. So I live in Minneapolis in the Twin Cities area.
Okay. I got a good friend that lives up there. His name is Spike Moss. And he was him and, oh my goodness. What was him and Clyde Belcourts were good friends from the time they were little boys. Thank my nephew, Pete Landeros.
Well, I want to say hello to everybody. My name's Peter Guadalupe Landeros. I'm a Pasquayaki Indian from Arizona, but I grew up in the state of Maryland. I'm also the director of American Indian Movement in Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania, and also the spokesperson for Piscataway Indian Nation.
Okay. All right. So now I see my friend down there, Kwame Sunhorse. Introduce yourself, brother. You're out in the woods.
I think he can't hear us. He's texting me.
Okay.
He's muted now, but let's see if I can get him to unmute.
Go in the house, Kwame, so we can hear you. Kwame.
Okay, just go ahead and introduce him so that I'm going to... you're muted. Can you hear it?
Unmute. Yeah, it's you.
Yeah, it's you. Can you jump out of the broadcast and come back in?
You can't
Let me
hear.
just okay. Let's go ahead. Can you introduce him, Elder Nightwolf?
Yeah, I know that old guy. Kwame Sunhorse is a sun dancer. I forget the nation that he's a part of, but he goes all over the country running UNIPIs for different Indian nations, things like that. He's a good man. He's crazy, but he's my friend. and hopefully we can get him in. I'm Jay Winter Nightwolf. I'm Jay Winter Nightwolf. I'm Cherokee, Shoshone, and Taino Indian. My Cherokee part comes from South Carolina. My Shoshone, my grandfather on my father's side, was from out around the Four Corners. And his wife, my grandma Sylvia, was Taino Arawak from Old San Juan, Puerto Rico. So that's me, and I'm the troublemaker.
And hi, my name is Les Fry. My people are Choctaw and Cherokee. We're from Mississippi Choctaw. And I am the co-host of Jay Winter Nightwolf. And yes, he is a troublemaker, but it's all good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start this conversation. I want to start with Erica Crazy Hawk Jones. Erica, you were recently in Washington, D.C., protesting the pipeline and the Treaty of 1977 and the release of Leonard Peltier.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and tell us about the experience that you had.
So I came down and came into DC as part of the climate action, declare emergency. I came in as a spiritual leader for the Indigenous Earth Protectors, Twin City. I came in as a collective with collective people there, who all came with the same, voice to, declare emergency, stop the fossil fuels. Just kind of forgive me. I'm a little bit still coming out of that past week and getting settled and grounded. Forgive me if I kind of get a little bit pink chalk, so that part there, I came down back from the march and got to march with the 75,000 people from all over the world, who all walked and prayed and chanted in a good way, and being a part of these movements, like from all the way from Standing Rock to the Line 3 movement, and getting ready to prepare for the Line 5 movement here protecting the Great Lakes. And so I come in, to use my voice and send those prayers up. So I had come back down there on September 22nd, and we had a prayer circle there, and we proceeded to go up and express ourselves, with our amendment rights, and and saying these prayers that way, and had put a banner on the White House fence, end fossil fuels, declare climate emergency,
Right.
and a lot of other things, as far as the no, with the no DAPL and Taliban. Yes.
Okay. So something happened to you while you were doing that. Tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. So while I was doing that part, I was arrested. It was a non-violent, direct action, and I stepped down peacefully and walked over to the where we were to be arrested and loaded up into vehicles. And so from there, there was two of us that were arrested, and they did not cite me there. So here they cited her and proceeded to let her go, which she, is a non-native woman. And they had, I was in my regalia, fully dressed in my regalia, and I had, I'm a veteran and a Sundancer as well. So, I had this gifted to me here. I don't know if you can see me still.
Yeah.
So I had, come over there to the, to where the officers, continued to, ask me questions about, who I was, why I was there,
Mm-hmm.
Amongst other things there, had happened. And the officer had, it shows in a video where, telling the officer to, don't touch my regalia. Please don't touch my medicine pouch. Please don't open my things. So he proceeded to take the feather off my head, and I asked him if if I could remove it myself. But that happened there, and things kind of shifted along that area, because I really felt like I was being torn apart from the things that I felt protected me, and I earned these feathers, and
Okay.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So, did they do a strip search? Did they take their regalia off of you?
The first search the first search that they did a little they did a little pat down here and there, continued to poke at me, and then so that was that part, and then so from there they said that they were going to take the regalia off me, and I had asked them not to, because I was figuring that they were going to cite me there. And then so from there they went and they said, well, we need to remove you from the regalia. We need to search you. So from that part, they took the regalia off me, and I had asked if I could, help, because I didn't want any of my things to touch the ground, and so, that kind of went on there for a minute like that. And from there, I had told them that, why I had come out here, and that I was a survivor of, things that had happened. And, so, to tell them a little bit about what happened to me, in a Bakken oil field. So I, explained to them, certain things that had happened to me, and I had asked them why, they wanted to search me again. And so there they went and told me that they were going to do a grown search, and which kind of had sent me back into this deal was to why are you searching me again, and why after I tell you that you already searched me, and that these things happened to me. And then so that's kind of where that happened to me, and I kind of started
Resist. Let me ask you this. Did they call a female officer to search you?
They did call a female officer to come over and search me. Yes.
Did any of these officers touch you in your private parts?
Yes.
Was it a female or a male?
At the time, I wasn't very unsure because I kind of went into a panic state. And then, so I think whenever she did come to touch me, and that's what kind of brought me back, was because she pressed in on my legs. And so that was that part where I'm trying to get ground my breath, and she proceeded to forcefully poke at me, and that's when she went and she shoved up on in between my groin and my anal part, in which that kind of was forceful, and it kind of sent me out into a PTSD kind of protection deal.
Okay.
Can I ask, did they give you a reason for why they felt that they needed to search you? And
No.
did they ask you if it was okay if they searched in your area, like if you go through TSA, they ask you, or they tell you that they're about to search there? Did they give you any indication that they were going to do that prior to that?
No, because I remember, telling them no, no more. And that is kind of whenever she had come up behind me, and I remember because I felt it. And I was like, right before I was, going to pass out. And then she said, she went and she didn't say nothing. And she took her hand and her finger, and it kind of went up, and she did this thing along into like my butt crack. And that didn't really feel right because of the things that had, how it happened to me. So it's kind of set out the sensory. So yeah, as far as that goes, I think like, I didn't, I didn't see, I didn't.
Okay. Erica, I know this is kind of distressing you, so I don't want you to have to go into any more detail. Okay. I do want to get Elder's opinion, and I want to get our panelists' opinion about this.
Before you get my opinion, I'd like to ask Raymond Two Hawks Watson. Raymond, what do you think of all this mess?
First of all, I want to offer my sincerest apologies to the sister for what she went through. That's just outrageous, in my opinion. In the U.S., you have the right to protest. You have the right to freedom of speech. As far as I know, for my legal education and things of that nature, there needs to be some sort of probable cause or reasonable suspicion or something if they're going to pull you to the side and search you. So I'm just completely perplexed on just a regular person, engagement with law enforcement. But then to think that they went as far as being as disrespectful as to take your feathers off your head and take your, I just don't understand what's going on here. And I don't understand why another individual who I'm assuming they were engaging with because of the same alleged conduct that they were engaging with you for, why they let her.
Yeah, they searched her, but wouldn't search the white woman.
I don't understand that. Like, none of that makes sense to me. So my heart goes out to you for that sort of experience. No one should have to deal with something like that. No one should have their privacy invaded. No one should be physically accosted. And most certainly it shouldn't happen just from, looking at it from a legal perspective, if there's not a legal reason. Because, they like to play those, well, legally we had to. well, what was even the legal reason for the engagement? You don't have to like what someone's saying. You don't have to like someone's position. You don't have to like someone's feelings, but that doesn't mean you can search them or physically abuse them because you don't like it. So I just want to say apologies, sis, that you went through that. I think it's horrible. And I most certainly hope that at the very least you're considering, if you haven't already, some legal action against those individuals for their behavior towards you, because in my opinion, it's completely unacceptable.
Exactly. Peter Landeros, what are your thoughts on this?
I watched the video and it's disgusting, but I have to say this also. I work in law enforcement, and after seeing the video, I made some phone calls to some other people that I know who are still active in the police force. And the Secret Service, police, do have a pat down that includes the crotch area of people, but it isn't supposed to be done in public. Okay, as far as I know, right? That is supposed to be done back at the station when you have other female officers around and involved. And the only thing they had was trespassing, because nobody's supposed to be putting anything on that fence. They can write them a citation and let them go. When we did the Leonard Peltier march, okay, that rally, they put this big, huge sign up that said "Free Leonard Peltier," and the people who were holding it were placed in handcuffs, walked to the back of a paddy wagon, handed a written citation, and told to go home, leave the property, or they would be arrested and booked. Okay, what happened to her is, there is no reason, and it is outrageous that something like that happens today. But remember, we are less than human in the eyes of federal law enforcement, the federal government, because it states in this great country's constitution, we are savages. And also remember the original document of, what is it, the Doctrine of Discovery, that says we are less than human, so that they can get away with this stuff. Because we as indigenous people are looked upon less than human.
Okay, KWAME Sanho.
Good evening, family. B-Zone. I sit here in stolen lands of the Muskogee Creek, and I'm honored to be a part of the panel. And in the background, you see that's our picture that came out of National Geographic. It was talking about, it has an article, the whole article in the magazine was on slavery.
Right.
And this part of what my brother just spoke on, we're less than human in the eyes of the invader. And what we're now looking at is, how do we decolonize what we have been colonized into? You know, there's a book, Red Skin, White Mask. And the part that we have to understand is that as we protest and as we raise our voices and look at how do we begin our decolonizing what the colonizers have done, there is an attack, and especially on the women. We have now in this Turtle Island missing and murdered women and girls here, that they're not even putting out the necessary force to help deal with what is going on the reservations, which is the first, really the reservation was the first incarceration space of our people here on Turtle Island. And what we've got to begin to do is look at how do we reclaim our sovereign lands, and how do we reclaim, like we just, everyone acknowledges, these are stolen lands that we are now, each one of us is sitting on, stolen land of our nation's people. Some nations don't even exist no more, but we're on that land that they call the U.S. You know, and the part of even calling Washington, D.C. is correct. It's Washington, the Department of Corrections, because we're all being imprisoned on this continent called Turtle Island. So I, for one, say that my elder and what she was protesting and what they did is a violation, but they don't respect our women's because they don't respect us as a people. And we have to be about the change for that.
Okay, I got you. Leslie, go ahead.
You know, I have a lot of people that are in my family that are in law enforcement, but they are very respectful of these things, and they're people of color that are in law enforcement. I don't know the ethnic background of the officers that did this to you, and I probably won't be surprised at what their ethnic background is. But I think that what has happened here is that the misunderstanding of communities and not understanding why it is that, you know, the touching your jingle dress, taking your feathers off, these are all things that will probably be some of the things that we could eliminate in law enforcement if we had training in law enforcement about communities. One of the biggest issues within law enforcement right now is that they do not know the communities that they serve. They don't know them. They don't participate in the events that are going on in the community. They have no relationship with the people that they police. And therefore, this amount of disrespect that occurs as a result of them not being knowledgeable about the people in their community is causing all of this conflict. If this officer had been aware of how important that is to our people, how important that is to you, the whole process of why you were given that feather in the first place, all of those things, that kind of training within I don't know if it's DEI training or whatever, is something that's lacking from that community. And I'm someone who doesn't believe in defunding the police. I believe that we should fund the police for these type of programs so that they get out there and they actually do things within their community, that they actually interact with the people in their community so that they have a better understanding of why they are protecting and serving that community.
Absolutely. You know, I have a lot of respect for the three officers. When I went to I used to go to South Dakota quite often. And whenever I got off the plane, it was these three white young officers that would see me coming down the runway, run up to me, grab my bags. Come on, Elder, we got you. And when they wanted to frisk me, they said, no, you don't frisk him. If you want to see his boots, he'll take them off for you. But we know this man. This is an honorable man. Now, if they would give all of the police officers that kind of training to respect our color, respect who we are, respect our private and sacred things, then we wouldn't have such a problem. But most officers in law enforcement, they don't get that training. And you're right. We don't need to defund the police. We need to make sure the funds go to cultural training so that they can be sensitive. I remember the last time I went out there, I'm a pipe carrier. One of the officers, excuse me, wanted to grab my pipe bag, and I resisted. And a young officer ran up to him. He says, don't touch that. He said, because things will happen to you that can't be explained. He said, what do you mean? He said, that man is like a medicine man, and you don't abuse him. Leave his belongings alone. Let him go through. We know him. Simple. Simple. And Erica, I am so distraught about what happened to you. And you can believe this from my heart, that me and all the people that you're on with tonight, we stand with you. And we will do everything we can to help you. Okay?
Yeah.
Erica,
Yes.
have you attained legal counsel?
Not for this type of not for the type that no. I mean, I have a lawyer that worked on the citation part of it, but not really aware if he knows about like treaty law or treaty rights. Just because I think there's one thing that nobody sees. The thing that nobody sees in the video is what happened to me inside of the van, or inside of the I guess the ambulance came and they put me into the ambulance, and from there they went and they cuffed me to the seat inside the ambulance, and they put me in a shackle on my foot. And from in there, I would kind of, yelled a few things, and there was 2 EMTs and 1 police officer in there. I yelled some things, and I just want to let people know that. And through all of that, I wasn't swinging my arms or anything, because I was trying to keep myself from passing out, and I had kept asking them to get my medicine for me. That was one thing that I had requested, but through there they had some things were kind of brought out there, and I think that's kind of where things kind of got aggressive there, because of the things I was saying. And so the firefighter lady went and shoved me back into the seat of the ambulance, and I had my arm, because I was shackled, and I remember feeling the coolness. And then I remember how she kind of got aggressive with me, and from after she shoved me, then she shoved me sideways into the seat belt that comes over you, and that's when she she shoved my head. And that part, I don't know, if, she did it to be aggressive because of what I was expressing in there upon my incident that had happened to me and my trauma. And so that's when I went and I said to the police officer who kept looking out the window, and I said, hey, I said, she hit me. I said, she shoved my head. And the officer said, well, if that's the case, he said, we got it on camera. But by then it was too late in that part, because I felt like that they should have been trying to protect me, and why were they treating me this way? And the fact that I had went into that and just asking the cop to get her away from me, to get her out, because it put me over into that deal where I was like, get her F away from me. I don't want her around me.
Okay,
And then
Erica,
that's kind of,
I know. Erica, Raymond Two Hawks is a lawyer. He graduated from law school. And I've got a few other lawyers that are licensed here in DC, and they're native. And if you don't mind, I'm going to discuss your case with them.
okay.
Because one of them is Harvard Law School graduate. And when Janet Reno was at the Department of Justice under Obama, she called him in to be her special assistant. So I'm going to be making some calls in the next couple of days. And if you don't mind, I'm going to give them your telephone numbers. Okay?
Yeah.
Can
I would really,
I'm sorry, Erica, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just said I would really appreciate that. Just because after all of that, and I just kind of felt really alone, and sat with the things that had occurred to me. and you know, reflected upon it, and you know, we're coming from, you know, the descendant of the ones that were hung and massacred here in Minnesota, and being massacred like that in Whitestone, and understanding, you know, being peaceful in that way my ancestors were, and it kind of baffles me, you know. But yes, I would love to have some support and some help, and maybe a
No,
little bit of
no problem.
healing.
You got brothers and sisters on with you tonight that are very concerned, and we love you. And we are supposed to take care of each other. So we'll call from people in a few days. And do you need to get some water? Are you okay, baby?
No, I'm okay.
I know.
I'm just very happy, grateful, because it's like, you know, I try to reach out to my own leaders, and ask, you know, for some guidance and things, and it's just, I'm just very grateful to have you guys right now. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Leslie, go ahead.
Sis, my heart just goes out to you. As someone who understands trauma, this is very hard for you, and to think that you probably don't have a safe space anywhere. And that's the thing, you know, you don't even have a safe space in your law enforcement people who are supposed to be protecting you. I'm curious. And that's the thing. Here's the thing that I want people to understand about you. You are retired National Guard, am I correct? Yeah, you served our country.
Yes.
And this is important to understand, you all. Her protesting is because she believes in the rights of this country. She did what she did. She was committed to service to protect those things, and yet and still she wasn't protected. And I just want everybody to understand that, because this is very profound, in the sense that people come here, people dedicate their lives to protect this country, but yet and still they are not protected whatsoever. And this seems to be a running theme when it comes to people of color who have served in this country. I am very curious to get Raymond's take on this, and also Pete's take, and then Brother Sunhars, you know, Elder Sunhars, I kind of want to get your take on the historical impact of this, you know, what she's talking about, because if you're not familiar with it, if you're somebody who's a novice, Erica said that she is the descendant of the people that were hung in her area. So I kind of want to get your, actually, let's start with you first, so you can explain to our audience what she's talking about. And then I want to get Raymond and Pete's take on her situation.
Thank us. And, you know, my heart is connected with Erica, because a violation of one is a violation of all of us. And so what we are hearing is the same thing that I get really aggravated with, is that I took an oath to protect this country just as she did. And those people that violated her took an oath, the same thing, in protecting, and they violated that oath. So that means is that it's not so much the words in which we say when we raise our hand and take that oath. It's the part of what they consider that you're not worthy of being respected. And in that violation is that I know each of the men on here, and I can say we've all had to have that experience of standing up against the wall and having someone go over our body. That's violation. They violate. That's just a mental raping of a male body. The same thing that happened to her, and her being detained, was a violation of her body. No one has the right to touch you unless they ask permission. Even though they're law enforcement, the enforcement is that you have to say, do we have the permission to search you? And that's a part of what they are trained in their enforcement. The part that we're looking at, and what she's speaking about, the massacre, and I believe if you're talking about the massacre of the 38 that was lynched there. It was Abraham Lincoln on Christmas Eve, of all times, on Christmas Eve, to have that order, to have those 38 young men to be the largest lynching in this country's history was done on Christmas Eve in the 1800s. And that was because they were standing up for their rights as indigenous people on their land. And so what we're not being able to have is a true acknowledgement of why they're fighting against CRT, critical race theory, because the violation is they don't want us to know what they really did to the people of this land. The massacres, the lynchings,
Genocide.
biological warfare, all of that. And that's why they look at and say that you're less than.
Thank you. Thank you, Elder Sunhorse. Can we get Brother Two Hawks his opinion on the situation?
Sure. So I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier to the sister. I would definitely suggest pursuing some sort of legal remedy for what occurred. Just to clarify, I'm not yet a lawyer. I have a JD from Roger Williams University School of Law. I'm not currently barred, but my colleague and I, when we graduated, we realized that particularly in our regions up here in the Northeast, there's not a lot of legal support for these types of issues for indigenous people. So we started a nonprofit called the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights. And I would love for the sister to reach out and place a formal complaint with us. We work with students at Roger Williams University School of Law and other areas to definitely be able to provide some legal support in this regard. I also want to say katapatush to the brother Peter for checking out what the actual policy is, because I think a lot of times where we get jammed up in these situations is not understanding how law enforcement is supposed to conduct themselves. So when we go to criticize them, they play all these legal games based upon our lack of knowledge. So I thank him for sharing that even though they do have some sort of groin area search, the manner in which they conducted it appears to be completely inappropriate. And that's a space to really address the situation in a manner where you can hold them accountable for violation of their own policy. But my suggestion, and I think that it's so important, just in the general community work that I've done here in Providence and Rhode Island, I always encourage people to, first of all, make a formal complaint, because that's what I found a lot of times when you have unprofessional law enforcement. The first thing they try to argue is, well, you never made a complaint, so we couldn't do anything about it, or we didn't know to do anything about it. And then secondly, to definitely pursue some legal sort of remedy in this regard, because if they're doing that to you, who else have they done something similar like that to? And then in additionally, who else will they do something like that similar to in the future, because they're not getting checked now? So once again, I just apologize, sis, that you even had to go through something like that in the capital of a nation that prides itself on freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And I keep speaking on that because I'm from Rhode Island. And that's where those sorts of concepts originated from a gentleman by the name of Roger Williams, who settled the state of Rhode Island, getting them from my people, seeing that we were allowed to speak our minds and speak our thoughts and believe what we wanted, and him being oppressed by his own people, saying, hey, you know, they're kind of onto something. And then the U.S. grasps onto that and says, hey, we're going to make these foundational principles of who we are, but not for the very people that we learned it from. So please, I implore you, please don't allow them to get away scot-free with how they treated you. Please consider reaching out to the center. It's thecipr.org. If you are planning to do that or interested in doing that, I will let our legal director, Dr. TAINO Palermo, who's of TAINO heritage as well, let him know to be on the lookout. And I would definitely love to be in support of bringing some justice to your experience and what you've gone through in whatever form or fashion I can be. So please do, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from you soon and being of support in your addressing your experience.
Thank you, Brother Two Hawks. And Pete, what would you say about this situation? We'd like to hear your take on this.
Can't hear you.
You're
When
on
it
mute.
comes, yeah, am I on mute now?
No,
No.
you're good.
Okay. When it comes to a situation like this, it really angers me, because I think back to all the abuse that our women have gone through since the invaders stepped on the shore. And it just angers me. You guys brought up the Lakota 38. Those were warriors getting food for their tribe because they were being starved to death by the federal government.
Yeah.
Okay. To bring that to today's incident, again, I'm going to bring up what it says in the Constitution. We are less than human. We are savages. And as long as we allow the federal government to look upon us and law enforcement to look upon us like this, we are going to be fighting this fight. It is time for it to end. And myself and American Indian Movement are willing to do what it takes to show support to anybody that this happens to. Okay? And because of who you are and what you stand for and everything that happened, you have our support. And I can guarantee that from the Grand Governing Council all the way down to any local chapter in the American Indian Movement. Okay? The issue really here is we have to speak up and let our voices be heard when things like this happen and continue to be heard. We cannot sit silent. To sit silent makes you just as guilty as that officer that did what they did to her. We cannot be silent anymore. It is time for us to come together as one nation, one people, and stand up for our rights.
Okay.
Thank you, Brother Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Brother Elder Sunhurst, do you have something to say?
Yes, and I was speaking on what she's doing, and she's in Minnesota, and I would suggest that you can. This is an organization called Wellbriety, and what they did deals with this traumas, PTSD, addiction, and that, and it's run on our spiritual guidance as far as 12 steps and recovery program. And what is needed there are meetings that can have, because you have to understand we're not alone in dealing with these issues. And so this would be a good place too. And the other part that I'm looking at when I was talking about looking at red skin, white mask, this is talking about what we're talking about, rejecting the colonial political recognitions of what's going on with us. And these are written by indigenous people, Vine DeLorean, and excellent. But what I would suggest too, and since you're dealing with this part of what we call healing the soul wounds, is dealing with the trauma. This was written by a psychiatrist, a Native American. And what we have to do is begin to look at how we as a people are beginning to use our way in going down this red road, because who better has an understanding of the trauma and the things that have been, and this is an excellent book.
Okay, enough books.
All right.
Your time is up.
You can obviously see that he's very well read, and that's why he is the type of leader that he is. So thank you, Brother Kwame. Thank you, Elder Kwame. I think we have probably 5 minutes before we wrap up our show this evening. I want to say, I want everybody just to do a quick comment before we wrap up. And Erica, just stay in touch with us because we'll make sure that you get the assistance you need. We're going to assist you. We're going to put you and Brother Tupac in collaboration with one another. And then also get you the information from brothers, from Elder Sunhorse about the books if you want to read the books. So can we just give a quick, 2 seconds, 30 seconds take on everything, and then we can close out the show. So we can start with Brother Landeros first, Brother Pete.
My advice is to go ahead and try to pursue this legally, and understand that you have the support around you of not just your nation, but all nations. And like I said earlier, we can no longer be silent for the atrocities that happen to us. And that goes for the murdered and missing. Every child matters, and things like this that happens. We have to have a voice. Speak up, stand, and fight.
Okay. Who's next? Two Hawks?
Yeah, so just Katapatus Jay for the opportunity to share some thoughts tonight, to meet these very strong people, to learn about this sister's very terrible experience. And I encourage everyone, in regards to what Peter said, yeah, we have to stand up. I went to law school because I realized that marching, protesting, making my own personal feelings known was just part of the puzzle. We needed to know more. And this legal aspect is a very, very key element of it. So I encourage the sister, and I encourage everyone out there to not be silent when our rights are violated, to speak up, to make complaints, and to take legal action against people, because that's really the only way that they learn, a lot of these people in this system. And we're definitely dealing with the system. So I encourage the sisters to stay strong. In our way, we have a term, ayutash, it means stand firm or stand strong and fight. Please do that. And I look forward to having the sister reach out and connecting with her and seeing what the center can do to provide some assistance in her regards.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I guess it's up to you now, Erica. Any closing thoughts? And you got a little bit of time.
My closing thoughts. Yeah. So as as a survivor of those injustices, and for these things, in honor of them women and the men, and particularly, out of my prayers and stuff, I come through about, to with Olivia Lone Bear. But, in all sense and realities, we're still fighting here for Unchi Macaw, for the future generations, So, we keep doing these things and move forward. But as we move forward, I would just like to say that, I didn't like the way that I was treated. I didn't like the way that I was treated, and I did feel like I was being stripped out of my rights. I did feel like I was going through the things that my ancestors felt, and that things that they went through. So other than that, I like to proceed forward and accept, any guidance and any help. And like I said, I would like to have help with the complaint, just because I was special education student. So I would really love to be with you guys.
Okay, thank you so much. Leslie, do you have any closing thoughts before I give my closing thoughts?
Well, we forgot Elder KWAME, so he needs to do a quick 30-second. Go ahead, Elder KWAME.
He did his already. He had 15 books in front of him.
Oh no, come on, Elder KWAME, come on. You're on mute. Please unmute.
Okay, Erica, the thing that we have shared and heard you share with us is that you did nothing but stand for rights. You can't expect sick people to do well things. And in you having had that trauma, just know in your heart, and please try to find you're in Minnesota. I know there's sweat lodges. Go and do our traditional way of medicines and healing. Go back to Ina Maka and go into that lodge and pray hard and ask the Takashilas and Wakantanka to be with you and guide you, because those ones that did that do not know the right of the universal law, the cosmic law, and nature's law. They're violating, man created his own law, and these are the violations that you experience.
Thank you, Kwame. Love you, bro. All right. Leslie, anything to say before I say mine?
Yeah, I would like to say this. As you notice here, that we are all of different nations here. And one thing that is important here is a unified front. We are the greatest dreams fulfilled of our ancestors. And when they couldn't fight for us, they were dreaming of the time and hoping for the time that we would be the ones to stand up to what we've been suffered historically in this country. So support one another. Let's not have any interfighting. Let's remember that we are stronger together than apart. And I'm so happy that there's a resolution here, and that is to get you on the path of getting some kind of victory out of this. So we love you, sis, and we're praying for you, you know, and I'm going to see there's going to be some good work done out of this. So stay strong.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. You know, when I was a little boy, every summer we went down to South Carolina, where the Cherokee part of my family is. And we spent time with my grandfather. My grandfather was a soldier in World War II. He carried that big old heavy M1 weapon in Germany. And he would always tell us, he built this table around this huge oak tree. And all of us little kids, we run over to him. Hey, Grandpa, he says, hi. Do you boys know what it's all about? And my cousin Mikey, who was the little one, he says, no, Grandpa, what's it all about? And my grandfather would look at us and say, it's not about the color of your skin, the texture of your hair. It's not about the clothes you wear. It's not about that entity that you pray to and call your God. And he said, you know what it's all about? No. He said, it's how you treat my heart. He says, you know, your family don't have to necessarily look like you to be part of your family. So just carry this thought with you, Erica. There are a lot of people out here that are listening and watching this show tonight. And you will get great help from places you never thought you'd get help from. And one thing that I really would like to know is, was Joe Biden informed about what happened to you? And if he was, what does he plan to do about it? When Obama ran for office, I came to South Dakota and North Dakota and helped with to get out to vote. And it was the Indian vote that got Obama over the top and got him elected to presidency. So Joe Biden needs to take a close look at this. And he needs to admonish these people and take care of them. This woman and this ambulance person, they need to be fired without any kind of help. So anyway, that's just what I got to say. And I will tell you this, in Cherokee, Danada, Loai, Wado. And Wado means thank you in Cherokee. And I love you all, even those of you that make it almost impossible to love you. I love you in spite of yourself. Talk to you soon. Take care.